Welcome to episode 1340 of The Sleeper and the Bust. I am Justin Mason, joined by my good friend Jason Collette. Both of us Commanders fans and looking forward to seeing our team get destroyed today.
Looking for disappointment, yes. I am ready to be disappointed again. Actually, my son is super excited about the season. I'm like, I don't know what's gotten into him, but he's super excited. And but it's just like I'm still more into college football, but it is good to talk some baseball today on September 8th. Happy birthday to my two younger brothers, 4 years apart, same birthday.
Wow.
Yeah, so one of them turns 50 next year. I can't believe it. That's crazy.
Well, we're gonna, the season is only got 3 weeks left. This is like one of, I think, the last
3 weeks from today. The season ends 3 weeks from today.
Yeah, and this is one of the last 3 remaining FAAB periods. We're going to talk about some FAAB. There's not a ton to talk about at this point in the season, obviously. Just be really smart. We were talking about before we hit the record button how we're doing on some of our teams, and we've got to push and try to win some championships or stay competitive in leagues, and that's what everybody needs to do. So FAAB will help you do that. It's the only thing that can help you here, but make sure you're really, really in tune with your standings right now to see where you can gain the most and potentially lose the most points with moves.
Exactly. Keep pushing, man. It's just like, in Wharf League, I've made it up to 4th place in Wharf. And this is without Kyle Tucker for 3 months now? And he just came back this week. And I had Kettle Marte out and he just came back. But I was like down in the double digits in the standings. I was down in like 10, 12, 13, and I'm currently tied for 4th. And that's without Tucker. So watch, now that he's back, my team's going to sink again. But I have no shot at winning that league. But I have a good shot at placing in the top 4 or 5 because I would need 10 points to get the 2nd place. It's a good first showing. It's my first, underscore ARF, whatever the league, the Earth League. I'll just say Earth League. It's my first,
the Earth League.
First time in Earth. So it's good showing. I'm already looking forward to next year's draft. And conversely, I have a draft and hold that I've been in 2nd place almost all year. And I'm currently in 5th because there's like 5 teams that are bunched up. We're at between 93 and 99.5 points. We're all trying to play for that 2nd spot in the money. And we're all there. And so it's possible because I was there. I've been there almost all season. And then for whatever reason, so many of my teams have decided to go into Derek Bell Operation Shutdown. I'm trying to censor myself. Operation Shutdown. And here we are. So I need the season to end. As do I. I just want to get I just want to get like fully into off-season research mode, start writing the player profiles at RotoWire. Do a presentation at First Pitch Arizona. Like, I'm ready to move on. And whether if I was, winning leagues or not, I am ready to. I want to get into 2025, and hopefully we can start some of that today.
Yeah, we'll definitely be covering some 2025 stuff here in the next few weeks, and then we'll be full bore on it in the off season. We don't take the off season off. So, but let's focus a little bit on FAAB today. And let's start with a few pitchers, and then we'll move into a few hitters that might be available in your leagues. Let's start with Cade Povich, who's going to be one of the bigger picked up guys, especially in 10s and 12s, but he will be available in some 15s as well. He is, back in the rotation. He's got a 2-start week this week. Paul and I talked about him during the Friday episode, but I thought it'd be good to get your views on the young Cade Povich, who pitched better at his last time out. Or were you trusting him at Boston, at Detroit? Is he a guy you're going to target this week in FAAB?
So he understood the assignment, unlike Albert Suarez. You look back at this week, and Albert Suarez had that matchup against the White Sox, and you're like, okay, it's Albert Suarez. I mean, I would take one of us, you, me, Paul, one of us pitching against the White Sox, and we'd have with the Orioles offense behind us, we have a good chance at winning. Nope, not Albert Suarez. And then Povich goes out and has a great outing. But then it's like, what Povich are you going to get? He did have a good outing against Boston back on April 17th, but then he had back-to-back, thumpings at the hands of the Astros and Dodgers, which again, it's totally excusable for a kid.
Yeah, no shame in that.
Yeah, right. So it's like, what are we going to get? And then with Detroit, honestly, what are we going to get? It could be a tough matchup for them because they're playing much better baseball here as they're trying to contend for a postseason spot, which 5 weeks ago would have been a pipe dream, and here they are like 73 and 71, I think, with things. So it's worth it because he's had a chance. I was looking at reading Lance Brodzowski's Substack last week, 2 weeks ago, where Povich has dropped the cutter. You can go back and look at his pitch usage, and the cutter's gone. He's taken it out, and it's not like you could just magically Davis Martin with that kick changeup where you just, hey, I'm just going to start throwing this thing, and or Bowden Francis with the splitter. I'm going. It's like sometimes you don't get immediate results. And Povich is, like I said, it's a matchup thing. These matchups aren't bad enough to run away from. And as we open this podcast up with, play everything you possibly can. I was looking the other day, one of my league mates was talking about in multiple leagues, he was just throwing every pitcher out there. He's like, and he wins and strikeouts. My ratios are in good shape. I don't care. And he was just throwing anybody that had 2 starts and chasing it. And it worked out pretty well for him from what I could tell. He posted a list like, hey, these are the guys that I've got going out this week. And Povich would certainly be on that list for this week.
Yeah, I think so as well. He's a guy that I don't know in 10-team leagues if I'm trusting him, but in 12s and 15s, I think I would take the gamble. Boston has not played particularly well as of late, at least offensively, and Detroit is one of those teams that can get you, but they're not a team you're running away from, especially when you've got that Baltimore offense behind you. You'll have the opportunity to get a couple wins here this week potentially.
The going thing is with Detroit, obviously you're going to have some of the lefty bats in that, so that kind of helps.
Yeah, absolutely. Next guy on the list, Rhett Lauder, who, again, he's going to have a 2 start here as well. And we did talk about him on the Friday pod, but really, really interested in him because I think he's one of these guys that, while he struggled with command or control through his first 2 starts, walking 8 batters in 10 1/3 innings, he has really shown a lot better command and control throughout the minor leagues. And so was it nerves that he was having trouble finding the zone? Or is it something else? What's your take on Rhett Lauder, who's got a 2 start and former top pick for the Reds?
And you have to look at it. So we talked matchup wise, right? And so he's had the Brewers and the Astros. So perhaps some of these 4 walks in each one of these starts were strategic. And it's like, I'm not going to give in to that guy. And as you said, he showed better command of the minor leagues with things. And so perhaps these 4 walks were strategic. I would say the good news for him is he's walked 8 guys and only one of them has come around the score. And that's pretty awesome because that rarely happens. Usually, anybody who watches a baseball game, that leadoff walk or what, that's coming around the score, whether you want it to or not, it's coming around the score. So I'd be curious to see what happens. Like I said, I wouldn't look if you were stat scouting and like, 9 strikeouts, 8 walks in 10 innings, pass. But again, this could have been, I didn't watch either outing. So been a little tied up, but like I said, this to me could be strategically pitching around certain parts of the lineup. I didn't go back into the box scores and say, okay, who did he walk? Was he out there walking Yordan Alvarez twice? That type of situation, but it'd be very curious to see what, where things were. And as I go back to look at it here real quick, the walks were two against Ben Gamel, Singleton, and Diaz. Okay, so I may have to rescind that statement a little bit because that's not strategic. Those aren't the guys you're pitching around. But he did strike out Yordan Alvarez. He did, between Alvarez and Bregman, they were 0 for 8 with 2 strikeouts. If you add in Altuve, they were 2 for 11 with a walk and 2 strikeouts. So it's like he got out the guys he needed to get out. I appreciate him giving up 2 hits to Jeremy Pena as somebody who has him in multiple leagues. That was really cool. But yeah, so not as I would want if it comes down to Povich or Lauder, give me Povich. Because when I looked at the 4 walks, I was hoping, but now I dig into it. I don't know how those are the 4 walks. That's kind of crazy to me. Yainer Diaz, I will give you, but 3 walking Jonathan Singleton is almost like that should be fine worthy.
Yeah, I think this was more nerves than anything else. I think he was just having a hard, first couple starts in the majors. I'm not overly worried. There is risk, obviously, because if these control issues stick around, any team in Major League Baseball can get you at some point if you're going to continue to walk, 4 guys each outing. But he has been so much better in the minor leagues. I mean, he had, obviously in AAA only had 1 start, but he didn't walk anybody. His walk rate in AA was 5.6%. Walk rate in high A was 5.9. This is a guy still kind of figuring things out, but has really, really good stuff. Usually shows much better control. I'm really interested in him, especially for these 2 starts, because both these starts are on the road, so it's not in Great American Ballpark, which is a place where you can get beat up pretty easily with how small that park is. So he's definitely a guy that I'm going to be targeting this week in FAAB and hoping to reap some rewards and maybe steal a win or 2.
So St. Louis and Minnesota. He's at St. Louis and at Minnesota in both these starts, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. So it's a pretty decent setup, especially St. Louis has been up and down all year, and Minnesota has kind of been in a little bit of a rut as of late. So yeah. So let's move over to closing situation in New York. It looks like they're moving to some sort of committee with Luke Weaver and Mark Leiter Jr. Do you have a preference on maybe one of these Yankees closers? Do you think they're just going to kind of spread around the wealth over the course of the next few weeks? Because being a Yankees closer has a lot of value, but if they're sharing, that really hurts kind of your ability to make up ground.
Yeah, so I'd like to look at it as a what have you done for me lately type of situation. So I'm looking at on this screen for those watching video. I pulled up when I was prepping for the show. It's like, okay, what have you done over the last month? So Tommy Canley on the upside, he hasn't walked anybody, nor has he given up a home run in 10 in the third. And we know that he, can throw a lot of ground balls, like Clay Holmes could when Clay Holmes was not messing up. Then you've got Luke Weaver, who for parts of the season has been fantastic out of middle relief, but of late has gotten back to I'm walking guys and giving up home runs. And Mark Leiter Jr., who can still strike out and miss bats, has the second best strikeout rate over the last month in his bullpen, but also gives up home runs and also gives up walks. So how many times have we had this conversation? Like, oh, by the skills guy, it's this guy. But then they always go the other direction. I would say from a skills perspective, Tommy Canley should be the preferred option here. That said, there's nobody else like veteran. There's nobody else that has like been there, done that type of situation. So it could be Tommy Canley after all. If I had like 5 remaining FAAB dollars and I didn't want to blow it all, I'd be putting money on Canley for the rest of the way and see if I can pick up a handful of saves and move a needle.
Yeah, I mean, Luke Weaver was the one who got the save the other night. So I agree with you that if it was up to me, Canley would be the guy. But it feels like, I always like to just go with who they're actually using in the role, right? And they gave Luke Weaver the first opportunity. Maybe we'll get some more information before FAAB runs today if there's a save opportunity, because none of those 4 guys in Canley, Weaver, I guess Jake Cousins could be in the role, Mike Leiter Jr. None of them pitched yesterday. So, maybe we get a little bit more information here today, but I think, I would probably take a dart throw on Canley. I'd probably take a dart throw on Weaver and just kind of hope to strike gold for the last, 3 weeks of the season.
And Ian Hamilton's back off the IL.
Yeah, it could be anybody.
What that matters. I was just looking at pitch use. Like you said, Weaver got the save yesterday. Cousins worked 23 pitches with a hold. Canley had 14 pitches with a hold. Weaver had not pitched since Monday. That's kind of it.
Yeah.
Mark Leiter's only had 1 appearance all week.
Yeah, I honestly think it could be any of them. In these kind of situations, often what I try to do is I just throw a few bucks at all of them and see which one I end up with.
Just waterfall them, just like Canley 3, 2, 1, and whoever you end up with.
And hope I land on the right one, right?
Exactly.
That doesn't always work, but the last thing you want to do is invest 50% of your remaining FAAB in a guy and then find out it's the other guy, right?
Yeah.
So if someone has a better read, go for the guy that you think is the dude. But for me, I would say it's probably Luke Weaver since he got that first save, or it's just a committee. Let's talk about Kyle Manzardo, because Kyle Manzardo is a top tier prospect. He was traded from the Rays over to those Guardians. He first came up, struggled, went back down. He's now back. He's playing somewhat regularly in Cleveland. Are you interested in Kyle Manzardo for the stretch run?
Yeah, this is me hemming again. When I show prepped, it's like, we know what the talent can be, and we've seen different varieties of things. That back in the preseason or off season rather, we talked about the impact of his mother's health. That was probably that could have weighed on what he was doing with Durham last year, and then his first stint around AAA Columbus wasn't that great. When he went back down, he performed better. He had the 2-homer game the other day, so you can see what he's capable of, especially in that ballpark, the way it's continuing to play for home runs. But it's going to be give and take. You may get, the strikeouts will still be there, but he was also walking more than he struck out in his in the most recent stint in AAA, and over the course of the whole season is almost a 1-to-1 ratio with that. So if I'm trying again, home runs. You and I were talking offline. I was showing home runs in AL Labor. There's like 5 teams within 6 home runs of one another. Absolutely. Making that play and see what I can get. The good news is he's out there every day. He's playing just about every day. I don't know if they had September 5th off, but as long as he's been up, he's been in that lineup and playing every day. And that's what you want to see right now is playing time, plain and simple. And so, yes, I would like to ride him out the rest of the way and see what I can get.
Yeah, they had September 5th off. They did let him sit yesterday, but I think it was just a kind of a regularly scheduled day off. He'd been playing.
Still got in the game a little bit.
Oh, I didn't even see that he got in the game, so that's good. Yeah, man. Yeah, like I don't think Manzardo is gonna end up being like this massive difference maker in fantasy necessarily, even like long term. I think he's probably gonna be a better real life player than he is a fantasy guy, right? Like he doesn't have prodigious power, but he's got a really, really good hit tool. And could he be
he's still short?
Yeah, like could he be like one of these guys where like, hey, like he plays every day and he accumulates and he hits 20 home runs in a season with a good batting average? Sure. Like I think, is he ever going to be a first or second or third rounder? No, I don't think so.
Nope.
But down the stretch, like anybody can get hot. He's playing regularly, hitting, usually 6-7 in this Guardians lineup. So a good spot to drive in some runs. You need some home runs, you need some batting average, some RBIs. I think Manzardo can help you out a lot.
It's one of the things. Like I would say previously, back in the old roster rules, right? When teams used to expand to 40-man rosters, we used to see a lot of crazy September stuff because of the quality of players that were up. And and we don't see that anymore. But I got like the good thing is we don't have guys losing a ton of playing time either because they're like, oh, let's just roll these dudes out. But at the same time, we don't get those crazy months where somebody's popping off 12 home runs.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
We don't. I remember writing about this previously. Like there was a month. And I used to write when this used to happen. I used to write articles like, "What could you possibly see in a September?" Like I want to say there was a month where Jose Bautista hit 12 home runs down the stretch in a September, and there was some crazy things. And let's come back to that. So let's talk about the next guy because I'm gonna use that time to pull up this because I just remember looking at this saying, "Oh, hey, wow, look at this." Just what we used to see in September that we just don't see. We're not going to see that anymore just because we've got better quality. We got regular guys out there all the time now.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Like, I think we often focus on, hey, they're not bringing up 40 guys anymore. So like, that means, they're not going to be like playing guys 2 days a week in the way that they, previously did when rosters expanded to 40. But you also don't get like the guys that are not really major league pitchers coming up and just, throwing batting practice to some of these guys. So that I do really appreciate that point being made. The next guy I want to talk about, another top tier prospect that struggled in his first go around, but that is Kobe Mayo, who has returned. Now, since he's returned, hasn't really done much. He's had 1 hit in 8 plate appearances over 3 games, and he was called up on the first. So talking about 3 games in 7 days. What are you doing with Kobe Mayo? Is this a guy you even care about at this point, or should we just leave him on the waiver wire since he really hasn't shown anything at the major league level yet?
And that's, I'm glad we put Manzardo and Mayo back to back, because it just, everything I said about Manzardo, flip it over to Mayo. But the Orioles have been like this all season long. They'll call these guys up and they don't play them because they're so damn deep in the roster. And I can't look at it. He's had 8 at-bats since being called up on September 1st, 8. And he has a single to show for it. That's it. And no, I can't unless I'm in a position, like if you're in a draft and hold and you took Mayo and like you needed somebody at the position, but targeting somebody who is playing 2 games a week, maybe 3. I'm sorry, he played 2 this week. Yesterday was a pinch hit appearance.
Pinch hit, yeah.
It's just, I can't afford that. I'd rather give me somebody out there. Go give me somebody who's giving me, 15, 16 plate appearances in a week, and not somebody who is getting handled like this. It's just, the Orioles and the Yankees are fighting it, and the Orioles aren't going to take any chances. And if Mayo, this is what it is.
Yeah,
I believe in the talent long term. I've seen the kid play. Reminds me of Chris Bryant physically. That's what he looks like. Love the talent. I saw him play here in Charlotte when Norfolk came through. Believe in the talent. Getting back to 2025, yes, I would be very interested in him in 2025. I do not want him on my roster the rest of the way.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I love Kobe Mayo long term. This does not lower his long term outlet or out. Well, I can't even talk right now. It does not lower his long term outlook, but for 2024, I just don't see where the playing time comes from unless he just gets absolutely on fire and starts hitting home runs left and right. I just don't even know how he can get that opportunity right now with the way the Orioles are kind of running things. So I'm probably not going for Mayo outside of like AL only in the deepest of leagues right now.
Yep. All right. Now I can come back to the September stat stuff.
All right.
So I pulled up some numbers and I said, okay, find me since 2010, how many, the most home runs hit by one player in the month, in September, October. Now it doesn't cut off just to September because I'm using StatHead from Baseball Reference for this, but what player do you think has had the most home runs over the final month of the season since 2010? I'll give you a hint. It was in 2017.
2000. I have no idea. 2017. Trying to think of someone who went on a late season barrage.
He also hit 396, 431, and slugged 951 during this time.
I have no idea. I'm not even going to give.
Just Dongs Martinez. JD Martinez did that. He's absolutely right. But when I look through, I'm seeing 55 instances of double-digit home runs from 2010 to 2024. I just put it all in there. 55 instances, right? And then stolen bases, I'm looking at stolen bases. Trey Turner in 2016 swiped 15 bags down the stretch. Remember this guy, Adalberto Mondesi? I can't even pronounce his name. I hate him so much. He stole 14. Jonathan VR stole 12 in 2016. Last year, Nolan Jones stole 12. Acuna stole 11. Elvis Andrus in 2022 stole 10. That's it. That's the double digits, right? So then let's focus post-pandemic season. So let's look at the last 3 years. The home runs come down from 55 just to 16. And there's 16 instances, not 16 players, 16 instances. Tyler O'Neill and Marcus Semien are tied at the top with 13 home runs, both in 2021. But let's remember, this year, home runs are down. And we've said all along, 2024 is playing like 2022 with the results. So if I switch out and say, okay, I just want to see 2022, let's go back and look and take a look at 2022 and see what happened that particular season over the month of September. Mike Trout, Aaron Judge, Anthony Santander, and Kyle Schwarber were the only guys with double-digit home runs. They each had anywhere from 10 to 12. And Jake McCarthy and Elvis Andrus were the only ones that stole 10-plus bags. That's it. So if you're looking, I need a guy to do this and I need a guy to do that, it's going to be tougher sledding. Aaron Judge led the league with 29 runs, but I'm only looking at 16 people, one of which was Oscar Gonzalez. Totally forgot about that. Oscar Gonzalez scoring 20-plus runs. And so that's what we're looking at. It's just we don't see the crazy amount of like blow up statistically that we used to see because the talent pool is better. We're not seeing all these rookies come up and throw games 3-4 times a week for teams like we used to. And the bullpens just can't, they're not just throwing this guy and throwing that guy. They're playing these games out. We're seeing better quality baseball in September, plain and simple, unless you're a White Sox or a Rockies fan. Or Marlins fan.
The White Sox are, just unreal bad. It's so unreal. Let's talk about Trevor Story. He's returned from the IL. It's going to be a big pickup this week. Are you buying in on a Trevor Story, bounce back for the last, month of the season?
I'm kind of pissed this actually happened because I made a deal a week ago for Andres Munoz for Vaughn Grissom because I didn't need saves anymore. And I was trying to protect margins. And I was like, you know what? Vaughn Grissom going to get with David Hamilton. I lost David Hamilton. So I was like, maybe Grissom gets called up. Didn't happen. So Story's there. So I don't know if Grissom's ever coming up this season. I'm just surprised. Like we get Anthony Rizzo and Trevor Story back this week. And they both look like they were done for the season. And, so yeah, I would take my chance with Story to see because we've seen previously when he's come back from these things, all of a sudden he's like, hey, he can actually do something. But again, it was a shoulder injury. And my track record on guys coming off shoulder injuries early. So it really would hinge upon what I need on my roster. But it's playing time. Playing time is and if he's out there, if he's going to be out there playing, then I am interested. And so when you look at, he did make the start yesterday, and that's all we have. So you're going on a leap of faith.
Yeah, I assume he's going to play every day, like that he wouldn't. And I'm looking to see if the Red Sox have posted their lineup today as we speak, to see if he's in the lineup on back-to-back days, and he is. He is batting 8th today, playing shortstop. So, the one thing we want to be careful of is he doesn't seem like he's going to be batting towards the top of the lineup. I believe he batted 7th yesterday. He's batting 8th today. But we know he has power and speed. The batting average may be an issue down the stretch. So if you're hurting batting average, may not be the guy you want. But if you're just looking for counting stats, Trevor Story can be a good player when he's healthy. Even over the last couple of years in Boston, where he has kind of struggled to stay healthy, when he's been on the field, he's been fairly productive. So I'm interested in picking up Trevor Story this week, especially if you're hurting in the middle infield at shortstop or at the MI position, because he's going to play every day, because we know he can hit for power. We know he can steal bases still. Just got to be careful of that batting average, but he will be a target for me this
I drafted
week.
him in a couple of leagues because he was so dirt cheap, and I've already cut him and reclaimed the FAAB, so I can't even get him back.
Another guy that is playing, pretty much every day right now, and playing halfway decently is Jose Tena of the Washington Nationals. Tena is he's playing every day at third base right now. He's kind of vacillating between 2nd and 6th in the lineup. Any interest in Tena?
I was looking at that this morning. When they first brought him up, he was hitting, like you said, vacillating between the spots. But for a while there early, he was hitting 2, and then he's back down to 5, 6, and 6 the last couple of games. But the good news is, like I said, he's out there playing every single day. This gets back to playing time. He had picked up a stolen base yesterday. It is the Nationals offense. They're not scoring a lot of runs. But if you're in a deeper mixed or an NL league, then yes, because the guy's playing every single day. And he's at least hitting. He's not in the bottom of the lineup, but the last 3 games, they have moved him down.
Yeah, he's a guy who's got a pretty decent hit tool and a little bit of speed. There isn't much power in that. I know he's got 2 home runs so far in just a few amount of plate appearances. He's only got 93 plate appearances on the season. I don't expect him to hit 2 home runs rest of the season, probably. But he could, with the way the Nationals steals. The Nationals lead the majors in stolen bases this year, and they pretty much just let everybody run. And so the fact that he can get on base at a pretty decent clip, he's 333 on base percentage a year, 295 batting average, and the fact that he can steal bases gives him some value, especially at third base, where it's kind of hard to get that speed from that position normally. Now, if you need power from that position, you're not getting it with Jose Tena. Like, So you would need to look elsewhere. But
You're
if
going
you're
to get
looking
that
for
from Joey Gallo, who's somehow still in this lineup. Why do you call up Darren Baker and not even give him one start?
Yeah, I don't know. It's the Nationals. What do you expect here?
Why do you call up Darren Baker and not give him one start?
So, but Tanya's a guy that if I was looking for speed or looking for a maybe batting average from the third base position, would be a guy that I would be interested in for sure. Next guy is a guy that another one of these former Rays, but that has ended up after being traded to the Dodgers and the DFA'd. Ahmed Rosario has ended up being picked up by the Reds. He's playing pretty regularly. Now he hits at the bottom of the lineup, but he is, I think, eligible at 4 spots in fantasy. Yep. It's a really good park. Now they're, like I said, on the road all this week, but he's playing every day. There is a little bit of pop and some speed, multi-position eligible. Any interest in Ahmed Rosario?
So I looked at it between Tena and Rosario. It's almost a wash because, like you said, both teams, we look at stolen bases. Washington leads the league in stolen bases for the entire season. And recently they overtook Tampa Bay for the most steals in the second half. It's currently 71-69. Tampa Bay was leading that up until the last couple of days. But then the Reds are 4th. And the Reds have been up at the top all year. Yeah, a lot of that's Ellie De La Cruz pushing that. So I looked at this when the Reds picked up Rosario as somebody who still had him in AL only leagues. I was like, and I didn't have to dump him. I'm like, cool, he'll get a chance to run. And he's 1 for 1. He's just stole base on September 1st, and that was it. And he is 0 for his last 13, but he has scored 2 runs. But it's just like, okay, you're on base, you're at the bottom of the lineup. Why aren't you running? He has the opportunity to do so. So it's like, I want to go that route only because I've had him. He's a known. But at the same point, we know that Tena is going to be in the lineup every single day. And so I'm going to lean Tena over Rosario if I had to pick one of them right now.
Yeah, I think I would lean that way too. The only caveat being that Cincinnati, while they're on the road this week, they do have a home stand next week versus Atlanta and Pittsburgh. So if you want to try to take advantage of Great American Ballpark, you can do that.
Take advantage of running on Pittsburgh.
Yeah, or running on Pittsburgh is really, but they do also finish on the road. So their last week of the season, they're on the road.
What's the rest of their schedule? Do they have any more games against the Nationals? Because man, anytime you can run against Kyber Ruiz, that's always fun. I'm looking at Twins, Pirates, Guardians, Cubs. So yeah, really, it's this week. Rosario, if he's going to do anything for you, it's going to be this week. This
week or next week. Yeah. And then you'd probably want to drop him anyways for the last week of the season because the Reds only have 5 games, right?
Yeah.
So looking at kind of the schedule for all the teams, it looks like the Reds have 5 games in the last week, the Guardians have 5 games in the last week, and everybody else has either 6 or 7, I believe. So no, they all have 6. No teams have 7 games in the last week of the season. So it's just a short-term stream kind of thing if you're looking for Rosario. The nice thing about Rosario, though, is that he is eligible at all those positions. So if guys end up getting hurt and you need a replacement that you don't want to find off the riverware, Rosario can plug a lot of holes for you. And there are going to be quite a bit of guys who just go on the IL unannounced over the course of the next 3 weeks, which is going to be really, really frustrating. And a guy like Rosario can fill a lot of different spots for you if that happens. So I do like Rosario as a dude for the next 2 weeks and then probably dropped for the last week of the season. All right, let's finish out with Grant McCray, who is Giants center fielder. He is a rookie that was called up late in the season. His calling card is defense, but he's actually shown a little bit of pop, which has been surprising. Does not have much of a hit tool, and that's why I've been a little bit surprised by the pop that he's shown because typically he swings and misses quite a bit. But he's got 5 home runs in just 68 plate appearances in 262, 294, 569. He's also got 3 stolen bases. Any interest in Grant McCray?
Yeah, I mean, the other calling card is his dad ran through an outfield wall in the minors. It's one of those plays, those iconic plays that you remember seeing highlights of that you never forget. It's just like, he hit 2 home runs last night against the Padres, which kind of is crazy with that. And like you said, he's got 5 home runs and 68 plate appearances. To put that frame, he had 6 in 213 in AAA, and he had 6 in 208 plate appearances in AA. So he had 12 on the season in the minors, and he pulls 5 out of. So this is the kind of craziness that you get. But like you said, it comes with a lot of risk. He is not up there to accept any walks, and he is trying to do as much as he can at the plate. And if it strikes out, he strikes out. You look through the numbers and you just see high strikeout rates all the way through. He used to accept walks in the minors, but in the majors so far, not yet. He's not getting that done, but he's playing every day. Again, we keep coming back to the same thing, playing time. And he has been out there and he's hitting at the bottom of the lineup, but the good news is he is out there nearly every single day. And so, yes, take a chance and see what happens with it.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like a high upside, low downside kind of dart throw. I mean, he does have the 5 home runs and 3 stolen bases and 68 plate appearances, but he is also striking out at a 40% clip. Like, this is not a guy who's got a very good hit tool. And I think that he's going to have like massive struggles, but with those massive struggles, sometimes are going to come these hot streaks that it looks like he may be on right now. And could he be a guy, because he plays every day and he plays really, really good defense, that just like goes off for the last few weeks of the season? Absolutely. So I think he's a 15-team kind of high upside gamble, but just know that like, hey, there's a fair amount of risk, especially your batting average, kind of moving forward on a guy like Grant McCray.
Yep.
All right. That is going to wrap us up for this episode. A little bit shorter than usual, but we'll be back. I'll be back on Monday with Paul. Jason and I will be back next Sunday, and maybe we'll spin things forward to 2025 a little bit and do something fun.
And we can just talk about a bunch of Chandler Simpson. By the way, he's trying to steal his 100th base today as Montgomery takes on Chattanooga. But his numbers, he has 99 stolen bases this year against 29 RBIs and 1 home run. But he hit 364 at high A, 348 in double A. And I'm like really excited. He's not even on the 40-man yet. I'm so pissed though, because in my local AL league, it's not dynasty, but it's keeper league. We have minor league. And the one guy in the league who I never would have expected to call him out, called him out 2 picks before I was ready to take him, because we had like staggered dollar rounds. And I was like, oh, I'm taking Chandler Simpson. And that guy says it. I was like, what? So mad. so mad. And yeah, 99 steals. And I'm hoping it pans out more than Billy Hamilton did. Because what was that list? Oh, the Rays radio broadcast the other day was talking about the season that Billy Hamilton stole 155 in the minors, which was just unbelievable when he did it. But yeah, I want to see Chandler Simpson get that 100th stolen base. We don't see a lot of milestone type of things these days, and it's cool when guys do the unusual, and stealing 100 in a season after stealing 94 the previous season. Between 2 levels of A-ball, it's been fun to watch. The kid, he is blazing fast. If you haven't seen him on, just go on the ML. If you're not a foosball fan, go on the MLB app and just go to the minor league part of the thing and turn on a game today and watch him play.
Yeah, he's a really interesting prospect. No power in the bat whatsoever, but like I said, blazing fast and a pretty decent hit tool. I mean, this is a guy who's had single-digit walk rates, most of the time through the minor leagues, single-digit strikeout rates and double-digit walk rates. So I'll be interested to see, like, as he kind of continues to develop, is the lack of power going to be too much for him at the major league level? Like, he's a guy that pitchers are going to try to just blow the bat out of his hand, and will he not be able to use that speed outside of being kind of a pinch runner type dude? Or can he figure a way to get on base enough where he can be just absolute terror on the base paths?
And this is like the 2025 focus a little bit, because he'll turn 24 this offseason. So it's not like they need to slow bake this thing.
No, he needs to move. Yeah. So
he is almost 2 full years older than Junior Caminero. By the way,
this is going to be one of those guys you take a dart throw in the 40th round of your DC, right? Or 40th
yes,
round
that's kind of where I'm getting at. It's like, it's time, and I'm absolutely hoping he's in the AFL this year. I'd be shocked if he wasn't. But if he can get to the AFL this year so we can see him live in person with that, and that'll be great. I know we're taught 2025, but it's the I think the Baseball HQ was running their discount for First Pitch Arizona another week or so, I think. But if you go
No,
to their website,
I
they
think
run
it
it out.
ended. I think it ended on Friday, but
Oh, okay. So I know I'm
you
doing
can.
a panel on 2024 a year in review because it's been so weird this year on so many different things. So Brent and I were talking about a panel with a few people just to talk about like the impact of the White Sox and why home runs are down. Why steals are actually up. I was projecting. I sent it you guys in the group text, but on the season, steals are going to be up about 3.5% over last year, but home runs are going to be down about 8.5%. Based off what I've projected, how the rest of this month is going to play out. So certainly need to look at that and like why we haven't changed, nothing changed, but why are these things doing what they did?
Yeah, I don't know what panels I'm going to be on, but I will definitely be there. My hotel is already booked. Danielle and I will be coming in Friday morning, hopefully. I just have to book my plane tickets. And then we'll be taking off on Sunday. So it should be a lot of fun if you can afford it and you are available that weekend. I highly, highly recommend you make it out to First Pitch Arizona this year. It's always just a blast of guys and gals sitting down, chatting baseball, and watching games. I'm sure there'll be games on TV as well as the games at the parks.
Potentially, if the World Series goes 7 games, we could have a watch party.
We've watched, I think, the World Series the last few years there. So it's been a lot of fun, and I really can't talk about it enough. We don't get anything for chatting about it. We just love it so much that we want everybody to come experience it at least one time. And if you come and experience it one time, you'll be back year after year. It is that good of an event. So that's gonna wrap us up. Jason, why don't you remind everybody where you can reach on social media and then plug anything you got going on?
So you can find me in the link in the show notes, but hanging out at Blue Sky and Threads, Instagram. I even at All Trails. I've been out hiking a lot lately because that is the best time of year to live in the Carolinas and go out hiking. Yesterday I was at a Hanging Rock State Park, and then the previous week I was at Table Rock. So I think I'm out of rocks to hike, but my body is operation shut down today because I could barely move. But yeah, all those different places. And article wise, I'm not sure what I'm going to write up. Last week I wrote about the exercise of looking at possibilities of what's happening with AL labor. James Anderson and I have been first or second all year long. And I looked at all the different possibilities and how my lead has evaporated recently, and and looking categorical breakdown. What needs to happen? What can I do with what I have left? Because in labor, if there are no $0 bids. So once you're out, you're out. He and I are both out. And then it's like, and trades, we're done. We can't do anything else. And so like Ian Hamilton being activated by the Yankees helps me because I can put an active pitcher in because I have Brian Sammons, who I had streamed, but I was out of FAAB. So he got sent back down and I had a dead roster spot. So I could put Hamilton back in there and hopefully he can do something out of the Yankees pen. But I just took a categorical breakdown of each one of the categories, looking at what I could do for my team, what his team could possibly do, and what the situations are. And my conclusion was basically, I'd rather be him than me right now. And that was before. And I had a 4.5 point lead at that point, which has flipped to a 4.5 point deficit just since I wrote that article on Sunday. So bad time for the team to get in a slump. But I encourage you, if you haven't done that already, take a look at it, because we talked about what can possibly happen in September. But you need to be realistic about what can happen. You have 3 weeks left, and the final week of the season, unless somebody's still competing for something, you can see a lot of crazy stuff there. But we realistically have 2 good scoring periods. You mentioned there's a couple teams with 5 games in the final week type of thing. So be realistic with things. And if you can, I think I said that even the last time I recorded, even if you're not going to win your league, try to be a pain in the ass. Try to make an influence in a category. Like if you can look at it like, oh, I can do something with steals and like influence your race. Just don't mail it in and focus on your fantasy football team or cry about your college football team if they're Notre Dame. All of that type of stuff. Like be a pain in the ass. Make an influence somewhere in the standings. Do what you can. And that's why this part's fun. I made a comment to another friend today. I didn't realize I still had money in my DraftKings account. I didn't realize I still had money in it because I prefer fantasy. I prefer blowing my money on fantasy rather than betting. So I was like, whatever I have left, I'm throwing that on the Cardinals today against the Bills. And whatever happens, I'm cashing out and I'm taking it out and I'm done. But I threw that against the against the Bills because I'm like, okay, Josh Allen. I mean, Bills are pretty heavily favored, but I'm like, they got a lot of new pieces. You know, Call of Duty hasn't come out yet, so Kyler Murray should be good. So I'm like, whatever I have left, I'm throwing it on that, and I'm going to cash out, and that's it. So it's just like I prefer. I know people like gambling is a game of skill. Okay, I'll give you that, but it's not my skill. My skill is doing fantasy, and I enjoy that more. So, but yeah, like I said, be a pain in the ass. Try to influence your league somehow. Either win it or make it difficult for somebody else to win it.
You can reach me on social media at Justin Mason FWFB. Still writing, 4 or 5 times a week over on Fangraphs and 3 times a week on Fantasy Pros through the end of the season. And then you can catch me on this podcast and the Friends of Fantasy Benefits podcast. That will do it for this episode. For Jason and myself, thank you for listening. Have a fantastic end of the baseball season.
Indeed.